Welcome to the Compact Mysteries podcast from compactmysteries.com, the show where we try to unravel a different bite-sized mystery each week, from baffling disappearances and strange objects to unexplained events and mysterious places. This is episode 38, The Mysterious Death of Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe was no stranger to the dark and mysterious, but perhaps the most baffling tale connected to his name is the story of his death. It's a mystery that has puzzled historians, doctors, and fans for more than 170 years. How could a man who practically invented the modern detective story die in such strange circumstances, leaving behind a case even he couldn't have solved? In 1849, Poe was 40 years old and had already lived a turbulent life. Orphaned young, he endured a rocky relationship with his foster family, battled poverty for much of his adult years, and was haunted by the death of his wife Virginia just 2 years before. He was known for his poetry and Gothic fiction, but also his struggles with drinking and depression. Despite that, his career was on an upswing. He was engaged to be married, had several lectures planned, and was editing a new magazine. For once, things were looking hopeful. But all of that came to a crashing end on the 3rd of October, 1849. On that day, Poe was found in Baltimore, slumped outside a public house that was being used as a polling station. He was disoriented, barely coherent, and wearing clothes that didn't belong to him. His friend Joseph Snodgrass, who came to the scene, was shocked by Poe's appearance. He described his clothing as filthy and ill-fitting, like they had been borrowed or forced on him. Poe was quickly taken to Washington College Hospital. There, over the next 4 days, Poe drifted in and out of consciousness. He was confused, agitated, and reportedly called out the name Reynolds again and again, though no one has ever definitively identified who that was. He never regained enough clarity to explain what had happened. And on the 7th of October, just before sunrise, Edgar Allan Poe died. The official cause of death at the time was listed as congestion of the brain, a vague and outdated term often used for fatalities involving alcohol. But that label explained very little. No autopsy was performed. Medical records from the hospital have long since disappeared. And the bizarre nature of his final days, the location, the clothes, the rambling, the name Reynolds, all of it left far more questions than answers. Naturally, speculation filled the void. One of the most enduring theories is that Poe drank himself to death. He did have a reputation for alcohol abuse, though that reputation is more complex than it first appears. Some friends said he could barely handle even a single glass of wine. Others claimed he went on long stretches of sobriety, only to be derailed by stress or heartbreak. He may have relapsed in Baltimore, or he may have been poisoned by alcohol that was forced upon him. Which brings us to the cooping theory, a disturbing but plausible explanation. Cooping was a form of election day fraud in the 19th century. Gangs would kidnap innocent men off the street, force them to vote multiple times at different polling stations, and disguise them with different clothes between each vote. Sometimes these victims were drugged or beaten to keep them compliant. Poe was found on election day, right outside a known polling place in unfamiliar clothes. If he had been cooped, it would explain his condition, his confusion, and the state he was in. But that's far from the only theory. In recent decades, doctors have retroactively diagnosed Poe with everything from diabetes to epilepsy, from heart disease to rabies. That last one, rabies, gained some traction in the 1990s when a study of Poe's symptoms, including his fever, agitation, and difficulty swallowing, lined up with modern rabies cases. If an animal had bitten him and he hadn't realized the danger, the infection could have progressed without anyone knowing. Some believe he may have had a brain tumor or meningitis. Others suggest he suffered from undiagnosed neurological conditions or even carbon monoxide poisoning. With no autopsy and no preserved records, it's all guesswork. And then there are the more dramatic ideas. Some propose that Poe was murdered by someone who held a grudge or by a romantic rival. Others suggest he may have taken laudanum or other drugs, either deliberately, accidentally, or under duress. One theory even argues he may have been robbed, beaten, and dumped by criminals who left him for dead. Each theory has its appeal, its own set of facts and flaws, and none of them provides a complete answer. Even the name Poe repeated on his deathbed, Reynolds is a riddle. Was it Henry R. Reynolds, a judge at the polling station where Poe was found? Was it a character or an acquaintance from his past? Or was it just a name pulled from the depths of a fevered, dying mind? Perhaps the biggest mystery is why Poe was in Baltimore in the first place. He was traveling from Richmond to Philadelphia and had no known reason to stop in Baltimore. There are gaps in his timeline of several days, with no confirmed sightings or letters to explain where he was or what he was doing. After his death, Poe was buried in a modest grave in Baltimore. His obituary, written by a literary rival, was unusually harsh, calling him mad, drunken, and deranged. That reputation stuck for decades, colouring public perception of Poe as a tormented genius, a haunted soul whose death was as dark as his fiction. But recent scholars have worked to separate the man from the myth. Poe was undoubtedly a complicated figure, but also a brilliant one. His contributions to literature are staggering. He helped shape the modern short story, pioneered detective fiction, and influenced writers from Arthur Conan Doyle to Stephen King. And still, his death lingers like one of his unfinished tales, open-ended, shadowed by uncertainty, full of twists and gaps. We may never know for sure how Edgar Allan Poe died, but that mystery has only deepened the fascination with his life and work. It has become part of the story, part of the legend. Strangely, it feels almost poetic that the man who gave us so many ghostly, unnerving tales should slip away under circumstances that would have suited one of his narrators. He wrote often about the fine line between life and death, about madness and confusion, about the inability to distinguish the real from the imagined. In the end, his life blurred into his fiction, and his final moments became a Gothic mystery all their own. Perhaps that's why we're still talking about him, not just because of what he wrote, but because of the mystery he left behind, a story with no final paragraph and no final answer. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Compact Mysteries podcast from compactmysteries.com. If you did, why not leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts? And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you would like to support us more directly, please consider buying us a coffee. Head on over to compacthistories.com/mysteries coffee to see how. Also, please check out our other Compact podcasts. You will find them all at compacthistories.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.